Once upon a time in a kingdom not so far away, there was a young and cheerful boy named Pin. Pin was known for his acts of kindness, especially towards animals. One day while walking home from school, he saw something unusual. It was a tiny kitten stuck up a tree, scared and mewing for help. Without hesitation, Pin climbed the tree and rescued the frightened creature. As soon as the kitten saw Pin, she rubbed against his legs, purring loudly and licking his hand as a sign of gratitude. Pin took the kitten home and cared for her. He fed her milk and made a warm bed for her so she could rest. The kitten quickly became an important part of Pin's life, and he named her Micha. One day as Pin was playing with Micha near the river, she suddenly ran away. Curious, Pin decided to follow her. He went along the riverbank until he came across a huge willow tree, and underneath it, to his surprise, he found a little door carved into the trunk. Michi had disappeared inside. Determined to find his friend, Pin pushed open the door and stepped through. On the other side was a narrow tunnel, dark and damp, smelling strongly of fish. With no other choice, Pin crawled through the tunnel. He felt his way along the walls until he saw a faint light ahead. When he finally reached the end of the tunnel, he found himself in a magnificent meadow filled with colorful flowers and sparkling waterfalls. But what truly amazed Pin was the presence of countless cats everywhere. There were cats of all colors, shapes, and sizes, lounging, playing, or simply basking in the sun. They seemed to own this place. Suddenly, a majestic white cat with a golden crown approached Pin. She introduced herself as the queen of the cats and welcomed him to their magical realm hidden within the willow tree. Pin was initially thrilled to be in such a wondrous place, but he soon began to worry about how he would get back home. The queen noticed his sadness and asked if she could help. Touching her magic crown, she transformed into a beautiful white dove and offered to take Pin home. Grateful for her help, Pin promised to keep the cats secret and protect their realm. The next day, Pin couldn't stop thinking about his adventure. He missed the cats and wondered if they missed him too. Unable to resist his curiosity, Pin returned to the willow tree. He entered the tunnel and soon found himself back in the magical meadow. To his delight, the cats were indeed happy to see him. They welcomed him as one of their own and invited him to explore their world. Overjoyed, Pin spent the day playing with the cats. They chased butterflies, climbed trees, and swam in the river. Pin felt like he had found a second home and a new family. But as the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the land, Pin remembered his promise to return home. With heavy paws, he said goodbye to his new friends and returned through the tunnel. Back in his room, Pin looked at his reflection in the mirror. He was no longer just an ordinary boy. To the cats, he was their friend and protector. He understood that his life would never be the same again. From that day on, Pin made regular visits to the cats, bringing them food and playing with them. The cats loved Pin, and he became a beloved member of their community. But their peaceful existence didn't last forever. One day, Pin arrived at the meadow and found the cats in a panic. Their queen was missing. The cats were worried that something bad might have happened to her. Determined to help, Pin promised to find the queen and bring her back. Following the cat's directions, Pin entered the dark forest. The trees had gnarled branches that scratched at the sky, and the bushes seemed to whisper secrets in the wind. Pin walked cautiously, his eyes sharp, searching for any signs of the missing queen. Suddenly, he heard a twig snap. Startled, he turned around, and that's when he saw a big gray cat with sharp claws and teeth. It was Fang, the forest cat, known for his mean and aggressive nature. Fang blocked Pin's pass and snarled, not letting him go any further. Overwhelmed by Fang's menacing presence, Pin tried to explain that he meant no harm, but Fang wouldn't listen. He wanted to scare Pin away and keep him out of the forest. Realizing that talking wouldn't work, Pin did the only thing he could. He pulled out a small fish he had brought for the cats and offered it to Fang. Fang hesitated, torn between his anger and his love for fish. In the end, his desire for food won over, and he accepted the offering. Was Fang distracted? Pin quickly dashed past him and continued deeper into the forest. Soon he came across a clearing, and in the center stood a tall oak tree. At its base were two guards, and below the tree's spreading branches sat the queen. Overjoyed to see the queen safe, Pin rushed to her, and she explained what had happened. A wicked sorcerer had cast a spell on her, causing her to lose her magic and shrink in size. The only way to break the spell was to find a special flower that bloomed under the moonlight, deep within the dark forest. Touched by his queen's plight, Pin immediately set off to find the flower. The forest was dark and eerie, and Pin had to be careful. He listened intently, hearing the rustling of leaves and the hooting of owls. Suddenly, he spotted a beautiful white flower glowing softly in the distance. As he approached, he realized it was a moonflower, and he quickly picked it. Returning to the oak tree, Pin handed the flower to the queen. With trembling paws, she touched the flower to her magic crown. A surge of power ran through her, and in a flash of light, she was transformed back into her majestic self. The spell was broken. Relieved and grateful, the queen embraced Pin. She praised his bravery and kindness and rewarded him with a gift, a pendant that would allow him to communicate with the cats. Overjoyed, Pin put on the pendant and the cats cheered. With their queen back to her powerful self, the cats led Pin in a victory parade through the meadow. They were celebrating their beloved queen's return and their hero, the brave boy who had saved the day. From that day on, Pin continued to visit the magical realm, always welcome and celebrated by the cats. He learned that even the smallest act of kindness, like saving a kitten, could lead to extraordinary adventures and true friendship. And so, the legend of Pin, the boy who became friends with the cats, was passed down through the ages, reminding everyone that bravery and kindness can take you to magical places you never imagined possible. Once upon a time, in a village nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling lake, there lived a young shepherdess named Elara. Elara was known for her gentle heart and her uncanny ability to understand the language of animals. One breezy afternoon, as Elara was tending to her flock of sheep on the hillside, she noticed something unusual. A small lamb had wandered away from the herd and was stuck on a rocky outcrop. As she approached, she heard the distressed cries of the lamb, and its tiny bleating echoed through the valley. Without hesitation, Elara climbed down into the ravine. The rocks were slippery and the slope was steep, but she was determined to save the stranded lamb. Just when she thought she had reached the bottom, the ground crumbled beneath her, and before she knew it, she found herself tumbling down a hidden crevice. Dazed but unharmed, Elara sat up and realized she had landed in a mysterious underground cavern. The entrance was dark and narrow, and the only light came from Elara's flashlight, which had fallen out of her pocket and was now dangling precariously above a deep pit. Suddenly, the beam of light hit something in the corner, and Elara gasped. It was a magnificent white horse with a flowing mane and tail. The horse was trapped, and its eyes held a mixture of fear and desperation. Quickly assessing the situation, Elara remembered her flashlight. With a sudden burst of strength, she tossed it into the air and managed to hook it onto a ledge above the horse's head. Then, inch by inch, she lowered herself down the rope, reaching out a hand to stroke the horse's velvety nose. The horse whinnied softly, sensing Elara's kindness, and slowly it began to calm down. With the flashlight still hanging from the ledge, Elara managed to free the horse from its bonds. The two looked at each other for a moment, and in that instant, a deep connection formed between them. Then, remembering her perilous position, Elara knew she needed to get back up. But the climb seemed impossible without her flashlight. Just as she began to lose hope, the horse nudged her with its nose and lowered its head. Trusting the animal's instincts, Elara climbed onto its back. The horse then leaped into the air, using its powerful legs to jump from ledge to ledge until they reached the opening of the cave. Emerging from the darkness, Elara found herself in the breathtaking meadow filled with vibrant flowers and sparkling waterfalls. In the distance, she could hear the familiar bleating of her sheep, and her heart soared with relief. But before she could rush back to them, she heard a voice. "So you have returned." Elara turned around and saw the most beautiful woman standing behind her. Her eyes sparkled like stars, and her presence radiated warmth and kindness. "Who are you?" Elara asked, feeling a sense of familiarity. The woman smiled and replied, "I am the guardian of this realm. You have shown great courage and kindness, and as a reward, I will grant you a wish." Elara hesitated. She could ask for unimaginable riches or untold power, but none of that mattered to her. Looking back at the cave, she realized that her adventure had been more than just a random occurrence. It was a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. Instead of asking for personal gain, Elara chose to use her opportunity for something greater. "I wish for my sheep to be safe and prosperous," she declared, knowing that her flock depended on her. The woman nodded, touched by Elara's selflessness, and waved her magic wand. A wave of energy surged through the meadow, enveloping Elara and her sheep in its glow. As the light faded, Elara turned back to thank the woman, but she was gone. The only evidence of her presence was a single white feather that shimmered in the sunlight. Grateful for her newfound strength and clarity, Elara returned to her village, where she continued to live as a humble shepherdess. However, her perspective had shifted. She understood that true power lay not in material possessions, but in one's character and the connections they forged with others. And so, the tale of Elara, the shepherdess who chose kindness and courage, became a cherished story in her village, passed down through generations, reminding them that even in the darkest of times, hope and compassion can light the way. If you like this story, please subscribe, my friend.